I've always been a really huge fan of horror games. It felt like when I was a kid, the only games that could actually give me a thrill were horror games. I played a lot of them, not as many as I thought in hindsight. And honestly, I haven't experienced anything like Divine Frequency in a very long time. Divine Frequency started its life out as a Doom Total Conversion mod, but it comes to us today as something far more unique, a standalone game, though still built on the GZ Doom engine. When I streamed this on this channel, I've been told by a few people that this version of the game is a little bit different compared to the original mod. In this standalone game though, it feels like it's a far deeper into its horror roots rather than its Doom roots, standing on its own as a more immersive horror version of whatever the hell this is. I can tell you this though, I haven't felt the sense of horror and dread of the darkness like I did in the dark halls of Divine Frequency. You don't know what is just beyond the aura of your light. In this video, I wanted to give you a few of my first impressions of the game, what I really enjoyed and what I'm hoping for its final release. Also, I'm trying something new with the camera. I hope you like it. Okay, great. Shit, bro. Divine Frequency's original mod description talks about a dystopian universe where reality and the dream worlds collide. Though the new Steam page gives us not much more to work with, speaking to how we're basically a hobo rising to the universe's most effective security software. Reading all of this time and time again and the Steam description, I can tell you now that none of it actually tells you anything about the game, and you're in for it as much as a surprise as me. What I can tell you though, it is definitely, well, it tries to definitely be an immersive horror sim, built on the GZ Doom engine, so it has a lot of Doom-like elements, created by Khan, or Good Karma, and published by the guys over at Hellforged Studios. Do we walk into the light or into the darkness? Let's get something out the way. This game is dark, like really, really dark. And you're asked to do a bit of a balancing act between the oil lantern, which gives you a little bit of light, and follow the candles to share objectives. Though, if I'm honest with you, unlike a game like Forgive Me Father, I kind of forgot that the lantern was even active half the time, so it's not really so much a thing that you need to worry about throughout the game, but it is a subtle reminder that you are in a very dark place and you need to look out for the light, and whatever is lying in the dark. There isn't really much to talk about in terms of movement or action. It's a standard Doom-like experience, though later in the game we are asked to master our dodging and jumping and dashing mechanics, and we're going to get into why that is important in a little bit. Though in specific, unlike other Doom games you might be familiar with, or GZ Doom games, however you want to look at it, I found the gunplay a little bit more erratic in this one. Yeah, you could say immersive, and I really do think it works into that space. Though maybe too immersive, the recoil on the shotgun was immense. And yeah, the shotgun and the handgun felt really medium, which makes sense because the ammo is just as rare. So when you blast these things off, you want to know that you're getting the best bang for your buck. Quite literally, the best bang for your buck. So the recoil on that shotgun is immense, and I don't know if that took away from my immersion or added to it, because when I blasted off at some nasties into the corner, I felt like I went way off the screen and I couldn't really come back, so I had to right myself immediately. It's a very strange experience. Maybe it was just me, but I did feel that was a little strange. We're not going to be playing Doom where you just basically a floating turret. This thing is going to be something a little bit more real, and I think that was achieved, but maybe a bit too much. Okay, we're gonna repair the gun. Speaking of immersive and RPG elements, like the shotgun, this game can sometimes make me feel like System Shock Remastered. At first, the item management system. It felt a little bit overcomplicated, but when I started using the items more regularly, like the electric traps or the repairs on the guns, which by the way, your guns need to be repaired often so you can use them effectively. That's a nice touch. Thought it was going to be weird and thought I was going to get angry and frustrated. I mean, I'm here to blow up some monsters, but actually not. It was quite engaging. Not actually a very difficult way to engage with my items that I picked out throughout the game. I don't know if it was because there was a lot of words on the screen, and you know, for me, words bad because there's a lot to read, but it felt simple, and that was a nice relief. So we can count on some light RPG elements. I dare say it's rather accessible to people like me, who are looking for a boomer shooter, but have found an RPG light horror FPS. And he's gone! Speaking of the enemies, look, I didn't really have any expectations going into this game when it came to enemy placement or monsters. I knew it was going to be dark and horrific, but I had no idea the level of jump scare I was about to get in this. If you're not a fan of jump scares, you're going to hate this game. I had a lot. They never felt cliche or boring. It always felt like there was this sense of tension and build throughout every phase of the game, that when you eventually did get a monster jumping out of the darkness, it was well worth it. Like I said, Divine Frequency does remind me of why I was scared of the dark. I'm scared of the dark because I'm scared monsters will jump out and fight me, or eat me, or bite me. I don't know why I have a feeling about biting. definitely they would have bit me. Here though, we have a combination of weird human monsters that, although at first seem like you're just run-of-the-mill thugs, are something a little bit more eccentric. Later in the game we get a few more mutants or demonics. I don't even know what to describe them as. They're just nasty and they move really, really quickly. Even this boss fight was intense. Essentially he comes across as this macabre, ritualistic, demonic meatball, which can just take a pounding of ammo. I needed to get some help from my stream to use armor-piercing ammo, which I didn't even think of using, which I picked up earlier in the game. And apparently I missed a whole different kind of ammo. Again, something that I didn't explore. There is a lot of exploration in this game to find different kinds of ammo and power-ups and upgrades or items that you can use in your fights. The fights are not straightforward. Like this boss fight and a few fights later on in the game, I had no idea that you could use different kinds of ammo to take down a boss in a different way. I actually emptied out my entire clip of ammo and died very badly in learning this lesson. So big shout out to my chat for pointing that out. But it just adds that extra layer of RPG elements. Again, not heavy. Light enough for you to be engaged and involved. Not too much that you feel like you're taken out of the game and now you're playing an RPG full throttle. This is definitely a first-person immersive RPG light in that way, and I loved that. I enjoyed it. It made me think a little bit and made me work for my lunch. I wasn't just running and blowing up things, and I think that was great. 11, 12. Monsters themselves did a great way of adding to the tension and the horror and the scariness of the entire game. But something that I have to talk about, as I usually do with these kinds of videos, is the sound design. Now, sure, I always go to length about the sound design in games. Now, I'm not a musician and I'm learning as I go. But this game rocked. Balance and mixture of quiet moments in between the fighting, as you're only listening to the drip drop in the distance. Maybe a thud, maybe a sly movement that you don't know where it comes from. It was intense. The silence adds to the intensity of the environmental noise. I don't know what this does. What was that? Why'd the music off? What the fuck? And this is not even just the music. We'll get to the music. The music itself is this slow, transcendent hum. Unlike other games like Dusk or Forgive Me Father, there's really no turning on the gas when it comes to fighting. Forgive Me Father, for one, always turned the gas up when we got into fights, boss fights, or just arena fights in general. And I always counted that out as, maybe you're changing the pace a bit, going from a horror space more to the traditional metal boomer shooter space. Divine Frequency does none of that. It keeps you just there, between the points of relief and tension, and I love it. It really does edge you on right until you get to the end and we have a grandiose boss fight, and we're going to get to him in a second because he's worth talking about. Hello. Oh my gosh, this is special, isn't it? This is all only enhanced later down the game, where we're somehow transported into a whole different universe. This is where we start the game off of that whole difference between reality and the dream worlds. It is nuts. I still don't know how to describe it in a great way. Maybe, hopefully, one day when I do the full review, I have the vocabulary to really describe it to you. But when I sat there experiencing the transition between the real world and the dream world, or at least what I think is the dream world, I was at a loss for words. The entire experience was unique, transcendent. So yeah, I don't know who's in charge of all that, but the mixture of horror, pacing, sound design creates this ridiculous atmosphere that I've not experienced in a game, let alone an indie game, in such a long time. The level of immersion that I felt going through these levels was intense. Anyone in my stream, like, I swear, if they were all in the room with me, we could all just hear each other breathing heavily. It was rough. The only way that I can describe it articulately at this stage is one hell of an intense trip. Wow. What? What are we doing here? There is something that caught my eye in the description on the Steam page, talking about calling these boss fights Souls-like boss fights. Now, everyone knows that I'm quite a huge fan of the Souls series. I don't play many Souls games, but I like to take my time privately playing Souls-likes because you know what? They're gorgeous and I love the immersion. I don't like losing and I don't like dying, but it is part of the fun. And there's something oddly appealing about that. I'm sure any Souls fan can respect that. So while not being a hardcore Souls player, I do like Souls games. Now, to call your bosses Souls-like bosses is always very brave, especially in this climate in 2023. But let me just tell you, because the rest of the game had you learn about how to use your items, how to jump and dash effectively in light little mini boss fights throughout, while also giving you the tone and the tension and the freedom to select how you wanted to approach every scenario, bringing that up to a boss fight and completely changing the pace is a risk. Now, when we're approaching this boss fight, it's called a duel. Now, I don't know if this is going to expand out later down the line where we have different duels, maybe a multiplayer of some kind. That sounds interesting. Don't think that'll work. Who knows? But in this case, the boss fight is called a duel. Now we go up against a lower demigod, whose name I haven't committed to memory, but hopefully I'll throw it up on the screen now. And really and truly, I was so surprised. Now, to call your boss a Souls-like boss fight is a big claim, and I think they did pretty well here. You need to have mastered those skills. You need to have mastered dash and super dash, which it turns out, by the way, if you're curious, is a jump and dash, which I didn't know if my chat didn't tell me and I died 7 times before it. Now, that was pretty cool. To go from the tension and the pace and the slow brood and darkness leading up to this point and then transition into a boss fight that was far more intense while also increasing the kind of music that you're playing, which by the way converted to a more boomer shooter metal rock kind of music, was very brave, but they successfully pulled it off. I didn't feel it broke my immersion. I didn't feel that it changed the game too much. Weirdly enough, unlike Forgive Me Father, which I did feel turned the gears really sharply, it felt like I was able to transition quite well into the dark of the universe into this boss fight duel. You still feel that sense of tension. You still feel like there is no escape. So nothing was inherently broken. Even with the music changing and the way we fight changing, I didn't feel I was taken out of the game. In fact, I felt I was brought further in because now my skills are being put to the test. Do I know how to dash correctly? Do I know how to time a boss's attack just right to get him into a state where I can deal some serious damage with my shotgun? All of this coming together is such a perfect display of game design. That's what games are meant to do. They're meant to teach you lessons. The boss fights are meant to test you on those lessons, and I think they did perfectly here. But hey, listen, if you're a Souls fan, play this game, get to the end, fight the boss. Tell me if this is a Souls level boss fight. I'd love to know what you think. At the end of the day, Good Karma is trying to do something different here, and I respect that. If From Software can change an entire industry where we create a new genre, literally calling them Souls-likes, maybe Good Karma can do the same with FPS. Yes! Look, as far as my first impressions go, they're very, very good with this game. I've been moved. The little kid in me is scared. Scared to go back and play this game just for footage. How's that? How often do you get a game that can do that? Fuck. I like this game a lot. It is really something special. So, here's my recommendation to you. Go and check out Divine Frequency, even if you played the original Total Conversion mod. It's right now free on Steam, the demo that is. The full release though is probably a little way off. I don't have any information on when the full release is out, but this demo gives a hell of a lot to enjoy. And maybe you can play it a few times too and discover new things. Apparently I missed an entire mini boss. Had no idea. While you're here though, don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you did, or share it with a friend. It really helps me out and spreads it around. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I'm hopeful that I'll do it, but I'm not sure either. So any kind of support is really appreciated. Also, I'm trying this where I try, IRL footage. I actually used to do videos like this only and transitioned to no cam videos because I thought it's what everyone was doing. But I kind of like this too. It lets us talk. So tell me what you think of the change in style. I'd love to know. Also, want to send a special shout out and massive thanks to Hellforged Studios for hooking me up with an early copy of Divine Frequency. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. Also, as usual, an utterly drenched thank you to my patrons. Thank you for supporting my channel. You guys are the shadowy figure in the darkness that grabs me just before I fall asleep. Thank you for watching, everybody. Until next time, please take care. Rip and tear. Cheers. Oak. Why am I so anxious? I'm gonna run away now. Okay, we're gonna go back to the light.